Hey guys, I ended up doing this little extra uh, philosophical rambling, but I figure I still want to do a few more next week because I'm really behind on all the topics that I brought up. Most of these topics were brought up from my mind, but weird wording. But it basically I thought of this stuff during philosophy class or foundation of ethics class to be more specific. Um, So I've had more. This video will hopefully go to 224.11. The last one, which I've neglected to mention, went from 2:8:11 to basically 2:10:11. So I'm trying to get back to present day. Well, not as close to present day as I can, while still having enough material to record for new recordings. So it's a delicate balance. Anyway, besides that introduction, let's get right into it. I have a variety of topics. I'm going to talk about whether morality can be there without happiness, whether the subject of dignity and money, free will from Kant's point of view, and existentialism and how they relate or differ, brains and free will, zombies not included, scientific proof of freedom. How far does rationality extend, and what does it mean to be a fully ethical person? Just to finish it off with a bang, that's a loaded question if I've ever heard one. So first, I want to start off with morality without happiness. Now, is it moral? I think the question was: is it possible to be moral without being happy about what you're doing? Or at least this is one take you could have. I think this is obviously the case. People do moral things that they may not want to do or may not like, but they do it anyway. For example, there is someone today that, well, no, it's not a good example because I didn't like the person, but I still like the action which I did, which I considered moral or respectful. But I think there's good. I think you can still be moral and unhappy. I think people can do moral things and still be unhappy about them because. If you look, going back to the old lady in the street, and there seems to be a lot of old ladies in the streets recently, but basically when you push them to the side or get them across and you meant to kill them, you did the morally right thing, but your intention was morally wrong, and you were probably unhappy about doing the morally right thing, but that doesn't negate the fact that you still did the morally right thing. So I hope that made some sense. But I mean, that's one perspective. I don't remember exactly what I was talking about because, again, this is the problem with going back and weeks later and looking at it and saying, morality without happiness. Well, that sounds interesting, but what did it exactly mean? Dignity and money. This is something I do remember. We were talking about basically how much money would you have to be paid, would have to be paid for you to sleep with, we said, for instance, Pamela Anderson. I said I wouldn't do it for any money. Other people had their price tags, of course. And I think it's an interesting topic. Does that make us immoral? Because our bodies are basically being bought with money and commerce. Is that immoral? Now, I don't think it's immoral. I think this is one reason why I don't think prostitution is immoral. Because basically you're voluntarily selling your body, at least insofar as the transaction is concerned, and you are not in the relationship itself, you are not being coerced to give sex. You actually ask other people if they want to have sex with you, and they pay you money, basically. I don't think that's immoral. Now, the circumstances around it may be immoral. It may be because of the economy or the system or the way things are structured, that prostitutes are in the situation that they are in, and in a way they are I don't want to say coerced, but in a way they're in a bad place, not due to any natural inclination to be in that place, but because the system dictates it so. So it's kind of a systematic kind of exploitation from above. Not implying God, I mean like rulers and stuff. Although I guess to a certain extent you could argue that the tyranny of Puritanism that Emma Goldman talked about in a compilation of her. In a book that had a compilation of her works called Anarchism and Other Essays, she talked about the tyranny of Puritanism and how it drives people to repress sexuality or demonize it. And I mean, that's sort of what makes prostitution illegal, too. So we were talking about dignity and money. I said I wouldn't give any amount. I'm not in love with Pamela Anderson, and I don't really want to have sex with her, and money isn't going to change that for me. Does that mean I'm better than other people? Maybe. I don't necessarily think so. It just means that I have different values than they do in this case. Um, but also it shows maybe I have more dignity. Maybe I realize, there's more to sex than just money, or there's more to my body than just giving it away for money, or my happiness insofar as love is concerned has more to do with love than to do with money, no matter what the situation is, or hopefully no matter what the situation is. So those are some ideas. Moving on, free will from Kant's point of view and existentialism. I again don't remember exactly what I was talking about, but I just want to go off on sort of what I was thinking while I read this. Kant's point of view about the will is that you need to have a good will. I talked about this in the last video, and that the will is an objective thing, and that you cannot rely on your senses. You can only rely on your will, and your will guides your intents, and you should trust your intents. I don't remember everything he says about the will. Grounding for the Metaphysics of Morals is a very tough book to read. Kant is himself a very hard writer to read, and I didn't exactly follow everything he said about the will. But as far as existentialism is concerned, existentialists, and I kind of have an existentialist notion of freedom, which is the notion that people are as free. Basically, you are born, and then you make yourself into be whatever you want to be, or you can anyway. You have that ability. You have that freedom. But with Kant's point of view about the will, with Kant's view about the will and it being objective, and it being having all these parts to it, as far as existentialism is concerned, I'm just gonna admit it. I don't even know where I can draw a correlation here. And honestly, Kant is a really tough writer, and I just sometimes flat out didn't understand what he was saying. So I need to read the book again, and I'm gonna kind of admit ignorance on this subject and just kind of move on, because I'm not gonna bullshit you guys when I don't know what's going on. But I do apologize. I wrote this. I wrote this on 2/17/11. That was more than a month ago. So I don't think anyone can really blame me for not knowing what it is when I'm only going on free will from Kant's POV and existentialism. I didn't exactly write a full comprehensive thing. Anyway, brains and free will. Basically, my philosophy teacher was talking about determinism, and basically, if you don't believe in God, and you don't believe in the soul, and believe that everything in our body is just physical, then you have to believe that our bodies or our actions are determined by something, because our bodies are subject to natural changes, and these natural changes are generally controlled, constant, predictable in some manner or another, to some degree at least. And so our bodies are therefore somehow determinable, to some degree at least. So we don't have complete absolute freedom, is what he was saying. And I agree with that, because basically if you don't believe in the soul, and I don't believe in the soul, and you don't believe in God, and I don't believe in God, then basically what you're left with is sort of being reduced to, well, these are our biological impulses, and there really doesn't seem to be any scientific notion, at least from what he said. Obviously, I'm no expert on determinism or fate or anything. I'm just starting to dabble in more general philosophy. And I'm by no means a scientist or anything like that, but I'm just going by what he said, and what he said made logical sense to me, so I'm just kind of repeating it and putting my own little spin on it, and admitting that I do have some ignorance. So if anyone who's a determinist or doesn't believe in God and is not a determinist to some extent wants to comment on this and bash me, well, not bash me, but say, you're being an idiot and here's why, then, I'd consider that fair, as long as you don't actually call me an idiot, because that's not really constructive criticism. Anyway, so I'm not sure a scientific proof of freedom can actually be done insofar as the will is concerned. The next question is, how far does rationality extend? Now, this is a very big open-ended question, so I'm going to kind of try to see if I can answer kind of simply. For example, how far can we reason? Can we reason? There's obviously a limit, because we can't reason with God, like we can't reason with concepts like that, because they are supernatural. They are if you'll excuse the play on words, they are naturally out of the natural realm. Um, and that may raise the question, well then if they're naturally out of the realm of what is natural, shouldn't we be able to measure them? Well no, because we can only measure what is natural, not what's out of the realm of natural. It doesn't make sense to use natural measurements for supernatural things. They just wouldn't match up. You wouldn't really be able to get anything definite. So rationality obviously has an extent. You cannot reason with things like magic or other nonsense. Well, not necessarily nonsense, but things that don't exist. Magic, God, whatever. So it seems to me that rationality does extend, but within the realm of secular ethics, or rather within the realm of objective reality, or the world around us, and not anything supernatural, just the natural world. It seems like our minds can only reason as far as well, I guess as far as we can get it to, or as far as we will it to. I guess if I want to use more of a Kantian language, as far as we can will it to. Our own volition, our own freedom, kind of dictates how far we can reason within the logic, within the realm of the natural. Within the realm of the supernatural, there's no logic, there's no reason, there's nothing really to go by, I feel like, anyway. So that's why I don't really believe in God, I don't believe in magic or anything, because there's no reason or logic to it. It's just based purely on emotion and speculation, and sometimes, but not always, blind faith, to a degree, or one degree or another. So that's why I don't really buy religion or God or magic and stuff like that. What does it mean to be a fully ethical person? Is the last thing I'll kind of talk about. This is a big question. First of all, what does it mean to be fully ethical? Let alone to be fully... but what does it mean to be ethical? An ethical person basically adheres to a good concept of morality, or a theory of morality that practically applies within reality and benefits others, increases their happiness, or their pleasure, or something like that. So basically, what would it mean to fully be an ethical person? Now, I actually don't think you can be a fully ethical person, because first of all, to be a fully ethical person, you would have to do everything right all the time, in all the right circumstances, it seems to me anyway. And so I think this question is actually pretty easy to see, that you can't be a fully ethical person. You can try, it's a noble pursuit, and I'm not saying nobody should pursue it just because you do it in vain, but in this matter, I do believe that it's better to try and fail than not do anything at all, because then you're not even going to be close to being fully ethical, if such a thing were even possible. Alright, so this has probably been my longest one so far. I'm going to have another philosophical rambling tomorrow. Once I get things more organized, I should have things more organized by tomorrow. And then I'll have a base video on Wednesday, another philosophical rambling on Friday, and yeah. So, alright, hope you guys enjoyed the video. See ya.